Tracking is the most subtle of all the wilderness skills. It requires an intimate knowledge of nature and the use of all your senses. There's so much to know and to find that it helps to break it down into some memorable categories. In principle, there are 7 areas to think about. First, the 3 T's. The tracks themselves, trails and transfer. Then the 4 D's. Damage, disturbance, deposits and dwellings. On top of all this, there is one more T, time. You need to learn to tell when whatever you have found happened, whether it was months, weeks, days or minutes ago. You might ask, why? Well, for hunting and trapping, knowing what's been where and when tells you where and when you will meet with greater success. But at another level, this subject's like a door. It will lead you into another world where every natural landscape comes alive, and will enable you to see and experience things that you never would believe possible. First, the tracks themselves, from where the subject gets its name. There are many animal tracks to identify, and the easiest to find are human ones. Don't forget that we are animals too. We're fairly clumsy ones at that, and leave a lot of signs to follow. Try tracking yourself. You can see what type of track you leave in many different conditions, and when you find an animal track, place one of your own next to it. This is the best way to begin to age them, by comparison. Now for trails. Many animals follow regular patterns, and it doesn't take much to leave a fairly permanent trail. Badger trails are good to get an understanding of this, well flattened as they move low over the ground. They're about the same width as the distance from your wrist to your elbow. They look quite similar to a human trail, and with inevitable consequences. Transfer is a bit more subtle. It occurs when one material is picked up from one area and transferred to another. This happens a lot with snow, but we don't get an awful lot of that these days. Water transfers well, but the one you will typically find is mud transferred onto a fallen leaf, or onto a stick, or onto moss in a forest. Now for the D's. There is a lot of damage to be found, but again, it can be subtle. It might be the bruise on a freshly pressed leaf of grass, or a broken green twig. These will age and change in a short period of time. Signs of animals feeding are one of the most common types of damage to be found. A pine cone half eaten, or a part of an egg on the forest floor. This one has been predated by a human, I think. Disturbance takes place when something has moved something out of the way. Most commonly it will be an animal looking for food, or a bed for the night. So a scrape in the leaf litter, or major digging operations like those left by wild boar, now happily making a return to my local area. And badgers famously do a lot of excavation. Animals leave all sorts of deposits, including themselves. And just so you know, you don't find a skull like that every day. Most famously, they leave droppings which you can learn to age and tell apart, and other bits and pieces, like feathers. Humans are great at this, and it's easy to age rubbish. The other animals leave much more tidy litter. And finally, D for dwellings. We all need somewhere to live, and the range of designs should put a house builder to shame. By the way, it's easy to mistake a squirrel's dray for a bird's nest, but drays are always about the same height and close to the trunk. So that's the 7 areas to concentrate on. 8 if we add the factor of time. Tracks, trails, transfer, time, damage, disturbance, deposits, and dwellings. After that, it's down to us. Unfortunately, we are equipped with a number of excellent mechanisms with which to receive information about our environment. There's no time here to explain how we can improve our senses. But the other organ worth mentioning is our brain. Don't let yourself be deceived by too much detail, and remember to think. It is a big subject, but take time to sit down and absorb the sights, sounds and smells that surround you before you begin. and then you will start to see a story unfold in front of you. Don't forget that we are just visitors in the animal's environment, so move slowly and leave as little damage and disturbance as you can. Once you build a body of knowledge, a walk will never be the same again, and I hope you enjoy the journey.